Bienvenidas y bienvenidos al Festival Ídem que celebra la Casa Encendida en su 8ª edición. Yo soy Marisa Luy, comisaria del festival. Continuamos con este ciclo de encuentros que hemos iniciado en forma de diálogo entre las ediciones pasadas del festival, esta del presente de 2020 y de las que se celebrarán en el futuro. Hoy tenemos desde Beirut a Tania El Khoury, Sofía Asencio y Tomás Aragay de la compañía Societat Doctor Alonso.
Hola.
Hola.
Bueno, os leo un poquito sobre ambos. Tania El Khoury, que nos visitó en la pasada edición del festival con su pieza As Far as My Fingertips Take Me, hablará con los fundadores de las compañías Societat Doctor Alonso, Tomás Aragay y Sofía Asencio, que este año será la única compañía presente en el espacio de la Casa Encendida con su obra Sobre la belleza. Tomás y Sofía trabajan sobre conceptos como el desplazamiento y lo utilizan para generar espacios de discurso poético y cuestionar el status quo de nuestra comprensión de la realidad. Tania El Khoury construye su lenguaje a través de la interacción con el público y el potencial ético y político de esos encuentros. En este diálogo entre la edición pasada, donde estaba Tania, y la presente, donde estarán Sofía y Tomás, tendrán un encuentro informal y se dejarán llevar conversando sobre sus trabajos y los temas que les interesen a ellos y del momento en que vivimos. Los tres viven al borde del Mediterráneo, pero en lugares completamente opuestos, en Beirut y en Barcelona. Pues cuando queráis, ya aquí os dejo.
Muy bien. Hello, Tania.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So
I just want to say that if you want to answer in Spanish, if it's easier, it's fine for me because I can understand not everything, but most things.
Okay, for me it's good.
Perfect. So I don't know how to start or how we can start, but we were just saying that we were in Beirut a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was 10 years ago or more. We've been there. Well, we've been there 2 times. In 2001, playing when the planes crashed in New York. That same day we were there performing in a discotheque. Yeah. So we remember very well that trip. And the second time we did a video work with a woman from Lebanon.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, how is nowadays Beirut? How is life going there?
It's awful.
Awful?
We have a complete economic collapse. In the last few days, we have hyperinflation. This is like years in the making, years of having complete, mismanagement, corruption in the government. So now we are in a place, there are no resources, like there's like electricity, power cuts most of the day. So I might just leave for a few minutes and come back. That's because the electricity is gone. Everything is super expensive, a lot of unemployment. So like at the moment, it's really, really bad. We'll see if it's gonna ever actually manage to come back.
Yeah. And to work in the art field there, it's not easy. Or how you manage to get funds in Beirut, in Lebanon?
Yeah, so I work a lot internationally, and I've lived in London for about 10 years. I do a lot of work in the US. I'm moving to New York in January for work with the Bard College to start like a program in human rights and performance. But a lot of the artists here like find different ways. A lot of them, like everywhere in the world, have other jobs or teach. Many rely on international commissions and funding, and others find a way to be like working in a collaboratively in a community and spaces that are alternative. There's a lot of, you've been here, so you probably know there's a lot of, like, there's a good art scene, quite vibrant, a lot of good artists, and I mean, good artists, who can judge who's good, who's bad, but like people who are passionate and work very hard and are critical. There's no very, very little public funding because of corruption and everything, and also very minimal private funding. How is it in Barcelona now?
Well, we don't live in Barcelona. We live in a small town up north near France, but near the Mediterranean Sea. And here is for artists here is better in terms of public funding. There is public funding, not a lot, but there is, and there is a very active scene in Barcelona and the surroundings. So Catalonia is one of the regions in Spain where more live arts are more developed, but also in the rest of Spain. So with the last 20 years, Spain is becoming more stable in terms of working here and developing a career in Spain. It's not as bad as 20 years ago. And we as a company, we do have a funding for the structure of the company, so that gives you some.
That's
stability.
Great.
Yeah.
And also, to produce more radical work is not as easy as it could seem. But in the scene, we could say, I don't know, 10%, 15% of the works belong to live art. The rest is more classical theater or writing theater and so on. But there is a strong scene on the live arts, and we are happy to be part of it. And we are actually well supported. The last 6 years especially, we can work only on this and teaching a little bit, but you can really do your life on working for arts only, which is very nice. And politically, we have we've been through a long process of independence for Catalonia, which is a very strong, old, and very difficult problem to be solved in a way. Personally, I'm not for it, but it's very complex to explain why, because both sides have arguments, and I think we have to find some political solution someday, because there are too many things that are being broken in between people, especially sometimes, and there has been a lot of tension in the moments, really big tensions in between families, personal tensions, political, more important for me, personal tensions than the political theater that they do. So that is now more calm, and I think because of the pandemic and the crisis that's coming, I think this subject is over for a while, but it's always there, and we have to. She's not Catalan, I am Catalan, so in our society there's a lot of mixtures like this. So it's more
totally.
it's more that I think it's interesting to keep that complexity, and not the nationalist ideas that can, if they go very far, they're very dangerous. So we're there in terms of political. This has been the subject for 10 years, which is a lot. And in terms of culture, for me, it's a little bit. It's not too rich, because Catalan has a language and has a landscape, but that can be a rich thing for people if you accept that you are bilingual and you are in a very interconnected world. But that can be also very restrictive if you take it in a very nationalist way. That's my.
Yeah, totally.
But te hablo en español. I speak you. Yeah. You
Un
understand the Spanish?
Yes, sí.
I try. Okay.
Despacio.
I ¿cómo se dice? Mezclo, ¿no?
Sí, you mix.
I mix. Spain is very special in this de esta manera, porque every region, no, 4 language is 4, yes, 4.
Sí.
And all the time we have to manage with the conflict, and that is very interesting. I think we are not like we don't have an esprit español. Maybe some kind of maybe the right people are now is very with this thing, the Español, bandera, like every part, Catalan. But this conflict is very interesting for one country. No, all the time we have to change language, change no, and this is something we have many years. Also, we have the problem with the Guerra Civil Española, with the dictator not resolved. And that's Spain is like this.
I think Mediterraneans, also,
totally.
We are all very used to, we're very flexible, no? Because it's a very small region, in fact, and we've mixed many times. We've
very
a lot.
Very
and
mixed,
we
and
that's why
history
we
of wars and violence.
Very long. And we are, but that makes us Mediterranean.
Yeah.
So if I get in touch with a person from Finland or from Holland, which everything fine, but there's a difference. I feel a difference in this flexibility that we are very used to it, because we have to mix with different people all the time. Other countries are more close in themselves because they are far away, and I think, and they are more apart, and they don't mix, but naturally they don't mix. In the Mediterranean, I feel very comfortable in Marruecos, very comfortable in Beirut, very comfortable in Italy, very comfortable in Tunisia, because we are a little bit alike in a way.
Yeah, totally. I think so too. And you mentioned the pandemic and how this shifted, obviously, the political tension. We here had an uprising, like a revolution against this corruption in the government and this mismanagement of resources and all of that. And we had it for a few months. And it was very hopeful because we felt like for the first time, everyone was in the streets, people from different sects, from different classes. They were like, from different classes, they were all wanting change, a more just society, and when the money that was stolen by consecutive government back. But the pandemic actually completely stopped it. There was the government used the pandemic, obviously, to shut down the whole country, put the military in the streets. Everything was like the media was a big scarecrow, like you're going to die tomorrow and we don't have enough hospitals for you. So everyone was terrified, and the death kind of count was very little, and it still is.
Well, vamos a esperar un momentín. Si queréis podéis ir vosotros contándonos algo.
Bueno, ¿qué os podemos contar? Bueno, os podemos contar
sobre la ficción, sobre la belleza.
Sí, sobre el proyecto. Bueno, ese proyecto es muy antiguo en el tiempo. Esto se hizo por primera vez
2002.
En el 2002 en el Teatre Lliure con el Festival.
Lo vi el otro día, investigando lo vi, sí.
Entonces, ahí se hizo la primera versión, digamos, porque ha tenido varias versiones con equipos de gente mayor diferentes. Y la primera versión nació como un díptico, en realidad, que fueron 2 piezas. La primera fue esta,
sobre
la belleza, en la que quisimos explorar cómo generar belleza con cuerpos de gente mayor, no habituada a bailar ni a estar en un escenario, y ver cómo podíamos con ellos construir un lenguaje coreográfico, de espacial, ¿no? Y de cuerpo y espacio, y generar belleza. Esta era la idea principal y sencilla. Y la segunda pieza del díptico se llamaba Sobre la muerte, y la hicimos con niños muy pequeños, me parece que tenían entre 6 y 11 años, o 5 incluso.
Esa parte no la conocía.
No, claro, entonces se hizo y se llamaba Sobre la muerte, y un poco había como estos cruces de cuerpos muy jóvenes que empiezan a vivir con cuerpos muy mayores, este espejo, ¿no? Y los chavales que, digamos, se les preguntaba o empezamos a trabajar un poco sobre qué visión de la muerte tenían, o cómo la entendían, o cómo la vivían con el cuerpo. Y nada, salieron 2 piezas muy diferentes, obviamente con energías muy distintas, pero el proceso, digamos, que fue parecido en el sentido de trabajar con un grupo de gente no profesional, no habituada No problem.
Yeah, yes.
Hello.
It's back. We were telling Marisa about the piece we will be presenting on the festival, and it was we were saying it's a diptych.
It's an old piece.
It's a very old piece made in 2002, the first version, because it's a work that we made with old people up to from 75 years old on. And the idea is called about the beauty. And the idea was just to work with them, with their bodies, with their idea of movement, and create something beautiful on stage.
Sounds beautiful.
With, well, beautiful, I mean, poetic thing. How to say in English. And we work with a pianist, and we work in a very funny way, because we asked this pianist to cooperate, and he said, I don't want to make music for a piece, directly for the piece, thinking on the movement. So he said, okay, let's work this way. I will make 1 hour of music, and you will make 1 hour of choreography, and we will not talk on the process. And we will meet at the end, and we will put the things together. And it was really nice because it matched quite well. We only had lunch twice during the process to say a little bit what we were saying, what we were doing in terms of texture and things like this. But we never practiced together until 2 days before. And this was very interesting also for the performers, because it made them to be very alive, no? In the moment of performing in front of the audience.
That's a wonderful concept. I really like that.
It came from the musician, no? Because musicians are very
moody.
See, they like to play with things. They're very risky, actually, in their proposals, no? Yeah. He's a contemporary pianist, also from the jazz world, so they're very used to improvise. They're not afraid, and that was nice. That was very nice. And the diptych was there was another piece with little boys and girls, very young, from 5 to 10, something like this, and it was called about death. And we also asked them to try to make a piece together around the idea they would have on dying. And these two pieces were like a mirrors, in a way, one to the other.
Yeah, totally.
And then we've done 3 versions of by the beauty, of 3 different groups of people. Because we don't tour much with this piece, because they ask us to make the piece with people from the country or from the city. And so we've done one in France, with a new version in France. And now, last year, the Mercat de las Flors, which is a theater in Barcelona, asked us to do again the piece with a new casting. And it's funny because I wanted to ask you, you work a lot on the social field, or a little bit? You relate your work with the social, or how do you feel about this, or how do you do it?
I mean, I don't really think about it as related to the social. I feel like it's work that comes from from the things that I care about. So it comes from a political motivation, whether it is about working. I work a lot on borders, but it comes from belief that a lot of us share, that it's like the right to movement is a human right, the right to refuge, right to travel, against discrimination on borders. So I find myself that I work a lot on that. I also come from a village on the border between Lebanon and Syria. So border is very much part of my family history, myself. In Lebanon, I've done a lot of work that can be seen as info activism, because they're very much focused on contested public spaces. So we have you probably know about that because you're from a Mediterranean place as well, but there is an increasing privatization of the seashore in Lebanon. And after the civil war, the post-war reconstruction actually managed to make to damage the country even more than the war itself, because of this taking over public spaces, privatizing everything, making it hard for normal people, ordinary people, to reach the sea, to reach public spaces. So I work a lot in collaboration with urbanists and architects and activists and researchers in general. And we do site-specific performances in these contested spaces. So, for example, we had this piece in 2012 called "The Sea Is Mine," where we take audience on fisherman boat in the sea, and we stop at all these private resorts and actually swim there for free with the audience and tell the story of it, but also expose this idea that if you come from the sea, it's public space because the water is public domain. But if you come from land, you have to pay these resorts. And because we had to do that, we had to study all the laws that govern the seashore, had to look at the zoning, different zones, what laws are there, and understand how each one of that each one of the resorts managed to break the law in these in different way, using corruption, using different tactics. So this is research-heavy research that is usually either academic or activist, research-based work that I did. But different work that is not site-specific, like my own solo work. You've mentioned collaboration with musicians, and how is that exciting? Because musicians take risks. I personally like collaborating with people who are not necessarily artists. So, for example, my partner, my husband, is a historian, and I enjoy collaborating with him a lot because it's actually looking at history, looking at archival material, looking at oral history. So totally different field, but can be used. As I said, one of my main collaborators is an urbanist and an architect. I'm thinking maybe one could collaborate with scientists, chemists. There's a lot of excitement here when one does that. And I really enjoyed that you said you've collaborated with elderly people and young people, because that's, we don't see these groups of people a lot, especially in performance. We don't see their bodies move. We don't, we just, if you think about it, we just see very limited age group perform. To a point where it just really gets boring. Kind of people, even able bodies, okay looking, from the same age, you just get a little bit fatigue.
No, we have been always trying to collaborate. Also, the performers we try to put on stage. Most of them are not actors or performers.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah,
we have finished there. It's been a process.
Yeah.
We started with these wonderful bodies prepared to be on stage.
Yeah,
Because what you meet on school, theater school. But bit by bit, we understood that is in the process of working. The interest is to share life and process with persons. So in the last piece, we had one sculpture, one light technician and architect who has become performer by chance, one actor, and one musician who has become performer. And it was a group of 4 men that was ideal to work with because they're very different among them. They come from different points of view. They understand theater very differently, and the discussions are much more richer than if you only have the director and the interpreters who wait for.
When we start to work with long time ago in our workshops, the thing we asked to the interpreters was to desaprender, to take out all you know. Yeah, and what we would say, maybe it's better to work with people don't know
who's not prepared.
Because for me, I'm interpreter also. All the time is this work to know, rethink the things that I know. I think I know.
Yeah, totally.
See, not to go through the same patterns that you have learned, because it's what it usually happens.
Unlearn,
yes.
Yeah.
But it's funny is that what you say with the boats. So you finally get to an action as concrete and clear as this one. When you do an investigation, I understand, and then you finally decide to do one action. Or not always.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I always in my work I always have these two come together. So I'm interested in working on the seashore. So I start with a concept, and this concept is always an image that comes to my mind. So I have I had this image of, since they closed the shore, maybe we come from the sea, almost like a counterattack. So I had this image, and then I worked from it. At the same time, in parallel, I was working on a research with this urbanist, who was doing the research at the same time. So very much I very rarely do a research then fit a form that works on it. Most of the time, I come up, I start from an image that includes the audience, because I do interactive work all the time, so the audience is key. The audience is very present from the very first idea. Like the piece that I presented in Spain with Marissa was As Far As My Fingertips Take Me. From the very beginning, I had this idea that there is a wall, there's an audience, there is a refugee who's an artist, and the audience put their hand, and there is this tactile relationship. So, and then we start building the piece with the content, but the image with the audience. And I always ask myself, who is the audience? And the answer should never be audience. Audience is always like a collaborator, performer, someone who's visiting someone else. It's just, there's always a role for the audience in my work.
We've done a festival for many years in this little village where we live. It was called Mapa, and it was a site-specific festival. Yeah. Completely site-specific. What we did
was nice.
Yeah. What we did, we two and another artist who lives here, Ernesto Collado, we directed the festival for 8 years. Mm-hmm. And what we did was invite artists that we were interested by and have them here for a month, working for a specific space. And it happened with many of them that they include people from the town on their piece.
Totally.
Or I was just remembering this piece from a woman from Holland. What's her name? Alexander Brother.
Yeah.
Who had, it's one of the experiences as an audience that I really enjoyed, because sometimes as an audience,
totally.
Depending how they treat you, I don't enter very well on the. It's very delicate. And this woman asked us to go. The kids were not talking, and they sort of how do you say that? Nos secuestraban, no? They took us as a group. And they took our clothes off. They took us away from the town. They take your money. They take everything, and they left you almost nude on the woods. And they disappeared.
Not
nude, but almost, because you took your clothes off.
Yeah.
And it was really frightening. It was very interesting.
Those kids, yes.
The kids were silent, completely silent all the time, very serious, looking at you, and they gave you instructions like this.
Like we do to the
like we normally do to the kids. They feed you with a very poor piece of bread and water, but they ask you to eat quickly. Come on. It was really nice. It was really.
That's funny.
Yeah.
No, I don't work like that.
Yeah. It was very theatrical.
Yeah. No, but also it's just. Sometimes I enjoy work like that, but I personally don't do it for various reasons. But I know that there is in interactivity, it's very interesting because there are people who really want this antagonistic kind of shocking people out of their comfort zone and trying to get them, shook. And other people, there is the other extreme where like, let's all be peace and love together in this harmonious, hippie sitting, which is another extreme. And I don't situate myself in any of these two extremes. First, because I don't want to assume that people are comfortable and want to get shocked. At the same time, I don't want, to build an alternative space because it's also it can be quite classist as art being. So I actually try to be in the middle where I give people agency, so I can tell them, we're going to do this. If you want to do that, you can. If you don't want to, you cannot. You can contribute. You can shift the dynamic completely. Some people said, well, let's go there. I've never been there. We were like, oh, yeah, let's go. Sure. Like people have agency to completely shift the dynamic or the course of action. At the same time, while taking care of each other, we're asking a very difficult political question. So we're dealing with subjects that are not very easy. So I like that middle ground, taking care of each other, but at the same time asking the difficult question.
And does it happen that somebody shift the proposal completely? Often?
Yeah, all the time. Un
espectador puede decidir cambiar el recorrido o hacer lo que él quiera y el grupo sigue.
Okay.
Yeah, or sometimes they would, like even with As Far As My Fingertips Take Me, they were like, I'm not going to put my hand. I don't feel comfortable. I just want to sit and listen to the sound piece. And we're like, okay, it's very important for us not to say, well, no, this is how the piece, you don't do it, you don't get it, Yeah. I've had...
that happens quite a lot in some proposals in theater, that you're
totally.
Forced. Yeah. Or even they give you instructions, and it's like it's really boring and really, it's very, as you said, it's like a dictatorship. It's like, what? Why
totally.
are you doing
if you don't do it,
yeah.
And sometimes they wanna like immediately ask you to do too much. I've been to pieces because obviously I'm interested in interactivity and the political dimension of it. So I've seen a lot of interactive work where as soon as you enter, you have to enter, do this, do that, do this, get off your clothes. And I'm like, you didn't give me anything in return. You're like, immediately you want me to do the whole job,
the whole performance,
the whole work for you.
Yeah.
So it's also good to know how it can be balanced and a horizontal relationship.
We have a piece called Anarchy, who talks about anarchy. There is a piece for one performer, one woman, and 40 electric guitars. And when the public enter, they
find a guitar on the seat and an amplifier, but no instructions.
No instruction.
We don't say anything. They can take the guitar or not, they can play it or not, they can put the volume or keep the volume as it is. The performer does her job, and the sound comes from the audience, but it's completely different every time. And it's really fun to see how they manage.
Be harmonic or can be
a chaos
total. And it's this, ¿cómo se dice?
I love the sound of this one as well. So
this danger
is very interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting what you were saying. Once you enter in an interactive space, if they give you some freedom, I think, the balance is how much freedom do you give them? Because this not knowing what to do is part of it. And it's what the audience really feel like. What allows that something happens, really. If you really let them, some rules, but not all the rules, so they have to...
Exactly. So it is a negotiation of control and spontaneous...
and you never know where the piece is, in fact, so the piece is moving, no? So that's... Because now we're thinking of doing a piece called Hammamturgia. It comes from the idea of the space of the hammam.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
We're starting with it. And we're thinking all the time, how do we give them the welcoming, what do they have to do? When do we interfere with them or not? No, I think that's we still are starting to think that, because they have to be alone there for a while also. Just relate to each other with their bodies, no? And maybe not doing that much while we're thinking.
That's wonderful.
It's very Mediterranean.
I actually thought about doing a piece in Hammam once in Tunisia. There is a festival called Dream City, if you know it. It's very much like Mappa. So they invite people to the old Medina in Tunisia, a company called La Rue, Arte Rue Caille. So they invite artists to live for a while in the old Medina and make site-specific work there. And I did a piece in 2017 working with a women's shelter and some LGBT activists, and we worked on the on the rooftops of the old Medina, because they're all related to each other. But because I was going to the hammam and I was so mesmerized by this whole intimacy relationship inside, the fact that it's very practical, you go in to wash, but at the same time it can be very has a different level, it can be intimate, transformative, different, and people come out of it a little bit transformed. So so I was like joking, next year I come back and I do this like women only performance. I never did it, so I'm glad you're gonna do something in the hammam. I hope I get to see it.
We are thinking actually on separating as the hammam. Women and men will go in separate spaces at the same time. They will separate, and maybe they will meet some point. We don't know yet.
We don't know.
But
that will be like a Korean spa. The traditional Korean spa, you go in. I went in Korea, women aside, man aside, but then there are places when you meet. And they're so good because they're open 24 hours. So you actually can spend the whole day coming in and out. So it becomes like a durational performance.
That's super nice. I love hammams.
Me too. In all cultures.
But that's as she said when we were thinking about this, like the Arab culture is apparently so close, and everything is shut and women are shut and that, but then they have this freedom in the hammam. There's a space to do anything you want.
There is like the intimacy inside is the freedom is really you can feel, no? It's nice, because here is the contrary. Here it's all the time you can do everything everything, but after the relationship with our bodies and clean the body, your mother, no, it's not the same. Something we lost, because Spanish is very near from the
Arab world.
Arab world. And also we invent this relationship in between dramaturgy and hammamturgy.
Good.
Because we said that dramaturgy is the way we contamos las cosas.
The way we explain stories, no?
And hammamturgy is the cómo pasan realmente.
How really they happen. And it's invisible. They happen for other reasons. There's never a logic argument that goes on and on. It's something else that moves things.
Dramaturgy is very the man who see and who speak.
Totally,
And hammamturgy is more with the body, with the things happen, like you said, no, this transformation for the poros.
Skin. You get out.
It's a more embodied language, embodied knowledge.
So you're going to New York for a long time?
3 years.
Woo! That's a long time. You've been there, of course, but it's a heavy city to live in,
I am gonna live north of New York. This is where the college is, in the Hudson, where rich New Yorkers have houses.
I know, and
No.
I
It's really nice. It's like a forest and has a nice river and the mountains, and it's not that far from the city, but it's a more like green, and more artists are living around there because there's more space and like nature, and because as you said, New York it's very expensive to live in, and it's very harsh, as it's very loud, very dirty. But I'm excited because we're building this new program that it's like very close to the things I care about, which is human rights and the arts, and how they can work together and how they can be in conversation.
Super.
So maybe we'll get to invite you.
Oh yes, that would be very nice.
Would be.
I would love to go back to do a site-specific work. See?
So very nice to listen to you. Wonderful talk. Tania is not gonna be this year at the festival. She was last year with her beautiful piece, and it was very warm and interesting to have that in the middle of her installation. Was in the middle of the patio in la Casa Encendida, white, everything white and little. But then when you went into and you put your hand inside this hole, and you found their basil. It was amazing that moment. To live that moment, it was really touching for the people. A few people could sit, because it was like you need to each people only could be there 15 minutes. Well, that is a lot, but it was reserved like 15 minutes, but you could not have a super big audience. You could also have, but it was a very important moment for the festival. Thank you, Tania, very much for that.
Thank you for inviting me. And we talked about coming again with me this time, because I've never been to Madrid. So you have to invite me again.
I know, I will for sure, because I love your work, really. I enjoy so much what I can see, that is your videos and your talks and things like that. I actually have like a line to say bye-bye, like a line of each of you that I was reading yesterday, taking notes of your work, and it was a line that I really liked, that it was personal freedom and collective dignity. This is have you heard? Personal freedom and collective dignity, that I really was very
nice.
powerful. It's of your work. No, that you. It's written in your website or in your And about Societat Doctor Alonso, I was also listening to your videos, and it was a phrase that Sofia said about get rid of yourself to catch the other. Get rid of yourself to catch the other. That I think was very, very interesting. The way that you live, and you mix with the bueno, lo digo en español, deshacerte de ti para contagiarte del otro.
Sí.
Claro.
Me encantaba eso, bueno, cosas que os definen mucho, things that define your work, both of you, very much. And another thing, if we give me just a little more time, because I was watching about a work that Sofía and Tomás did, that is called El Desenterrador.
Yes.
That is to maybe you can explain better, Tomás.
Well, it's a conversation among people with certain rules, and you discussed about one word. You talk about it, and the idea is to visit the word for the group and see what it means nowadays. But you go, and the idea is to go down on earth with the image. We worked with archaeologists to do this project with the idea that the word has been there for a long time, and it's somewhere down there, the resonance of the primitive word, if we can say it like this. So the word has a lot of things on top, and we have to clean it to visit the word as it was. something like this.
That is beautiful. And you're talking about work, like one of your earlier work?
No. I see this work, The Digger, it's by what, 2007? No,
15.
2015.
Yeah, but what work are people discussing?
No, it's a word.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
For example, I don't know, justice, but also
Okay.
also
Word.
table.
I thought work.
You can go from table to justice or democracy to window. Any word is good to work. Sí.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Some words to say. Some words. If you could say some words now.
Mediterranean,
for example.
Fear.
Yeah.
What's fear?
Yeah.
Miedo.
hammam, of course.
Swimming.
Swimming. I like swimming.
No, que te vengan ahora.
Mapa.
Mapa is a good one. Yeah, mapa is a good one. Dream, from Dream City. Dream.
Conflict.
Wow. Well.
Border.
Kids.
Old.
Well, I'm gonna say the last one. Ídem. That is the name of the festival, but actually, since I am the curator of this festival, I start looking at this word in a different way. I always like it, but now it's like even I'm going to deep down inside of the word. So you're very, very welcome, both of you, and I hope that we are gonna see very soon.
Yeah.
Again, and don't leave because I have something that I have to ask you. Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. I'm gonna just say bye-bye to everybody, and hold on. I have my thing over here. Okay, here. Well, I'm changing to Spanish. And quiero invitar a todo el mundo a continuar la programación del festival desde la web de la Casa Encendida. Todavía nos quedan varios encuentros, vídeos y documentales para ver, y todos estarán en abierto durante todo el mes de septiembre, así que no hay que despistarse, porque el tiempo pasa volando. Y por último, deciros que el día 25 y 26 de septiembre tendremos en el patio de la Casa Encendida Sobre la belleza de Sociedad Doctor Alonso, y podréis disfrutar del encuentro en vivo que estamos deseando todos de ir al encuentro del teatro en vivo. Y nada, bueno, Tomás y Sofía, si queréis decir algo sobre esto, pues...
No, que muy contentos de poder mostrar este trabajo y además, sobre todo, con este elenco de gente mayor, que va a ser un placer hacerlo con ellos.
Sí, de hecho... hemos estado en contacto con ellos todo este tiempo porque es gente de riesgo, y tengo que decir que el hecho de que esta actuación se pudiera producir ha sido para ellos
como un faro.
Un faro para estar bien y continuar
juntos, y se comunican mucho entre ellos. O sea, se ha generado como una amistad entre ellos muy bonita, que se volverá a producir en Madrid por primera vez después del estreno.
Qué alegría, qué bien. Bueno, pues thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, Tania, for your conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's so nice to meet you, and I hope we meet in person soon.
Yeah, okay. Super.
I hope in New York City, in New York, upstate New York.
Yeah.
Right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.